Hi, welcome back into Average Home Theater. This is Nelson. I'm joined once again by Dominic, and today we're gonna start our first video of a two-episode series of the Indiana Jones franchise. So Dominic and I both watched the first two, which are what is it, Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Temple of Doom,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna talk about those. So how's it going, Dominic?
Good. It's great to be back on the channel. And like Indy says, it's not about the years, it's about the mileage.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a good line. That was a good line. That was in Temple of Doom, huh?
No, it was in the first one.
Was it in the first one? Okay.
It was towards the end of the first one.
Are you sure? Yes, it was because it was Karen Allen.
Yeah,
You're right. You're right.
yeah.
Sure was. Okay, well, let's start with Raiders. Now, confession, these are not my favorite. This is not my favorite franchise. Okay. I don't hate it by any means, but for some reason it just doesn't resonate with me very well. Like it doesn't, to me, in my opinion, especially watching these first two movies, it's still kind of overrated. Um, like I enjoyed them, but not like almost everything else that I have, if that makes sense.
Right. So I mean, it's funny because, we're not talking Star Wars tonight, but we still can't get away from Lucasfilm.
Yeah, I know, huh?
So this is like baby steps. Because obviously Indiana Jones is a property owned by Lucasfilm, which is now owned by Disney. But um, I find myself as a casual fan as well. Like before we did this, like I have the Blu-rays,
Hmm.
but before we did this, it's been a few years. I'll crack open and watch them. Every couple of years I try to watch them. So I consider myself like a casual fan of it. I'm not a diehard, but I'll tell you this: every time I dive back into them, I like them more and more.
And
Especially Raiders.
well, okay. Well, let's get into Raiders. Let's just start
Right.
there.
And
Um,
go ahead.
so it starts. It's 1936, I think, is what it is,
South America,
because
1936.
1936. So, um, the opening scene is great. It's probably the best part of the whole movie, in my opinion. You have he's in the jungle, he's with the natives,
Mhm.
and Alfred Molina is with him. Very young Alfred Molina. He looks
Very young, way
but
before he fought Peter Parker.
so yeah, so that scene and everything it's a great opening scene. You kind of don't you just see a silhouette of Indy and you don't really see his face and all that stuff. So, the directing and whatnot is very good. And it's Lars Kasdan. And didn't he do Empire Strikes Back? Is that the same one?
Yeah.
That's the
So
same guy. Yeah.
what was cool is, George Lucas originally came up with the idea of basically wanting to do, it's kind of like Star Wars' cousin because it's still that Saturday matinee 1930s serials, but instead of space, it's, the Western and the explorer and the guy that's in over his head.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of the same people, right? Because you have Lawrence Kasdan helping to write, you have obviously Lucas, and then Spielberg is directing.
No, no, Spielberg didn't direct Raiders. Did he?
Yeah,
Did he
he
direct
directed
Raiders?
Raiders.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So Lawrence
Yeah.
Kasdan helped write it. Okay.
Yeah. And then screenplay by Lawrence Kasdan
Lawrence
and then
Kasdan.
story by George Lucas and Philip Kaufman. So, you know, Lucas definitely he came up with like the basic idea, but then he was surrounded by a lot of good people that brought it together. And then obviously with Spielberg directing it, it wouldn't be what it is if he hadn't been behind the camera,
Yeah.
obviously. But no, that like they do like the "in made us rest" thing, that cold open, is like we were saying, one of the best openings in cinematic history, I think,
Yeah.
and one of the
Going
best
through the
titles.
temple. Yeah. Yeah, you love that title.
I love that title, like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like it's just so captivating. It like how could you not be interested in a movie called Raiders of the Lost Ark? Like it sounds good. I'm kind of annoyed that on the Blu-rays that they all say Indiana Jones and the Raiders in the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
But I know why they did that is to make it a franchise. But if you look at the movie though, it still just says Raiders at the beginning. It doesn't say Indiana Jones. Um, but yeah, that opening, I love that title, like you said. I like how the Paramount logo becomes the mountain in the movie.
Hmm.
And then, like you said, Alfred Molina, and they go through all the booby traps
Yeah,
and the
through in the
chasms.
temple, that the temple is what
Mm-hmm.
I love. The booby traps and all that good stuff. And you see you start to see his brilliance, how he his knowledge of how he knows about all that stuff. He's like he stops
Mm-hmm.
him from getting in the sunlight. Um he
Right.
he puts the branch or a piece of wood and triggers the dart.
Right.
So it's just a really good opening scene. And then he's sitting there wiping his face, trying to judge the weight of the head, whatever
Yes,
that piece
iconic
is.
shot, right? This movie's
Mhm.
full of iconic shots.
So I enjoyed that, and then the giant boulder and all that good stuff.
Right.
Um,
And then Alfred Molina, like, remember, he's trying to go over the chasm and he's like, throw me the idol. And he's gonna run off with it.
mhm.
And he gets judgment pretty quick because seconds later we
He's
find his
dead.
body. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I liked that him getting his what he deserved there. Um and when Indy is running from the tribe, when he's running out of the thing, I
the
can't.
dust,
Yes,
the
yeah, okay,
dust coming off of the dust clouds.
right. And when he's running, and another iconic shot with them all following him, it really reminds me of that scene of Back to the Future 3 when the DeLorean's going towards the camera
Right.
and the Indians are and
Indians.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It reminded me of that. And it's funny because also Spielberg didn't direct the Back to the Futures. He was involved,
Yeah.
he helped get it going. So, kind of the playing in the
That's gonna
same
be
sandbox.
another discussion because I love Back to the Future. So we're gonna have a Back to the Future discussion as well.
Yeah, I grew up on those movies, so I'm very vast in those as well. And it's funny because it's like, a lot of the same people working on these early 80s classics.
Mhm.
Um, oh, and did you notice when he finally gets to the plane and it misfires when it's trying to start
Yeah.
up?
The
It's a
Millennium
shot.
Falcon.
Yes.
Yep.
I
They
thought
do
that
that a
was
few
cool.
times in the movie.
Uh-huh.
They use different sound effects from Star Wars. But yes, and then they set up very early foreshadowing about the snakes. I hate snakes. So,
Right.
that's gonna come later.
And also, what is the gentleman's name that outsmarts him and takes the idol? Um,
Oh,
uh, Tanis, I think his name is, or it's something like that. But the older guy that takes the idol from Indy,
mhm.
and he essentially did all that for nothing. Um, and he's going to show up again and again as the film goes on. But then I like how kind of moving away from that is then he's in school, and it's cool to see like he's kind of almost got the Clark Kent Superman thing. Like
Hmm.
he's this huge adventurer on the weekend, and his students probably have no idea that he's actually hands
Even
on out
wearing the
there.
glasses to like
Right.
change his persona.
Right. I love that. I love that. Like,
Now,
and
one
it's
thing
like
that has stuck with me over the years, and I guess it's because I've never seen it anywhere else, but as a little kid, I remember the girl with the love you written on her eyelids. For some
right.
reason, it's one thing that stuck out as a kid that I always really remembered about this movie. I don't know why. I guess it's just
It's
one of those things.
and it's funny too because it's like that's something that would be like in a John Hughes movie, but it works here, So that's funny. I like the whole Sunday school lesson about the Lost Ark and how
Oh yeah, when the
um
agents, whatever government agency they work for, they're like, "Hey,
right.
the Nazis are looking for this. What is it? What are they looking for?" And you get the whole explanation.
Which is cool because in real life Hitler was obsessed with occult items and religious artifacts. So that would be something the Nazis would be looking for. So like, I know it's fictional, but there's some real world, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's a little grounded in something.
Right. So that's cool. And also like, yeah, because supposedly, there's that legend that Hitler was running around with the Spear of Destiny, and then when he lost it, the Americans found him. Like, I know it's kind of an urban legend thing, but that's always surrounded the Nazis. So them being the antagonist that goes after the Ark makes sense.
Now, so they hire him. So his boss or his supervisor at the school um,
Mm-hmm.
convinces the feds to hire Indy to track down the Ark and find it before the Nazis do. Okay.
Right.
Um, but what I missed was how did he? Well, I guess he knew that Marion had or her dad had that that piece
Yes. So he knew a lot of the stories. So he knew that she had that medallion that you have to
medallion,
put on top of the staff to uh so
project the
you
light.
have to,
Yeah.
right, to tell you the location of it. So he knew she had it, or at least knew potentially the whereabouts. So that's why he goes to Nepal and finds her. And when we meet Marion, she's having a drinking contest.
I love that
um
scene.
I love that because it shows you that she's a feminine hero, but she's also got like a kind of like she's identifying in with all the guys that are surrounding her. So she has that cool character trait, and it comes up later as
Yeah.
well.
And I like Karen Allen.
Oh,
Um,
she's great.
uh, she's much better than Kate Capshaw in the second one. That's for sure. But
Let's save that conversation because yeah, I
I
agree.
really I enjoy Karen Allen's character a lot. Plus, I just like Karen Allen as an actress because of Scrooged. So
Oh,
I don't know.
okay.
I'm very partial to her.
Right.
So I enjoy Marion in this movie. And poor thing, she loses her bar. You know, these the
Gosh.
Nazis show up and there's this big shootout. And one thing I'll say, and I know Temple of Doom was basically the main reason why we have PG-13 now, but
Right.
Steven Spielberg, he liked his violence back in the Gap. Like his movies, even though for some reason they're all PG, um, i- even this one, it's pretty violent. You know, people getting shot in the head
Oh,
and all
this would
that
have
good stuff.
easily been PG-13 had
Hmm.
that rating been out when this movie came out. Totally. I think the only reason it doesn't hit R is well, I mean, there's blood in it too, though. Like, I guess how
There's
long the
virtually no
camera
curse. I think
lingers
he
on it.
says, I don't even think he even says a curse word in the first one. He says
Hmm.
uh SH in the second one, but I don't think he says any curse words in the first one.
It's mild, if anything, kind of like Star
Like
Wars,
maybe
how there's
damn or hell or
relatively,
something.
right, relatively no cussing. And then I think some of the bloody shots, well, I would say they don't linger on him too much, but
I
at
don't
the end
know.
they do. Yeah.
Yeah,
um,
so as I was watching, I was like, man, this definitely should be a PG-13 movie. There's no doubt.
100%. And the exchange he has with Marion, when he walks in, you see his shadow first. That they had some kind of rocky relationship, and you get all that like a couple minutes. Like their
Yeah,
characters are really honed in.
they say she was a kid, but I'm guessing she was like 18 or 19, something like that, whenever they had a
Right.
little fling and
Exactly.
you know.
And what's funny is, she says she doesn't know where the medallion is, but obviously she has it on her. And there's he tells her, "I'll give you $3,000 now plus two when we reach the
Man,
states."
that's a lot of dough in 1936.
Well, my exactly, but my Star Wars head was like plus
Yeah.
15 when we reach
Hmm.
Alderaan.
Absolutely. Well, there's no doubt. There's no doubt that's what they were doing.
Lucas wrote that line. Like, you
Oh
can't tell
yeah.
me he didn't. Yeah. Or
Yeah,
I
I
guess it could have
absolutely.
been Lawrence. I know. I chuckled at that. And Indy, like, the Nazis holding the iron to her face, but Indy is the one that knocks the iron out of his hand, which sets the drapes on fire, which burns the bar
Mhm.
down. So it's
It's
the
his fault.
Nazi in a way, it is.
And I
So
remember that guy, the Nazi with the glasses that gets his hand burned. I
he just
remember
looks like a
him.
villain.
Yeah, from growing up, he was impactful too, because I really remember him vividly.
Yes, him. And you know what other villain does that for me? The main villain in RoboCop.
Oh yeah, Kurtwood Smith, he's great.
Yes,
Wait, you talking
yes,
about Kurtwood Smith from that '70s show? That's who you talking about?
yes,
Okay, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah. He's just man, that
Oh,
dude.
he's great.
Yeah, I know. He's a great villain.
Hmm.
So then they go from there and they go to Caro and they meet Sala,
Yeah, John
right?
Reese Davies or John
Yeah,
Reese Davis. Yeah, something like that.
yeah.
That's how you say his name.
No,
He's
you got
actually
that.
he's in the new one.
I saw that he's in the new trailer for the new one, being Dial of Destiny, which comes out next month. Which was cool because it kind of brought us into all this. And we have a sword fight not soon after that. And do you know the story about that when the guy's doing all his moves and
Yes,
he pulls out the
so
gun?
apparently Harrison Ford was sick. He wasn't feeling well,
Uh
and he
huh.
didn't feel like doing the sword fight. So he was like, "How about if I just shoot the guy?" or something like that, and it works. I mean, it's great.
It what it's one of the most memorable scenes, and even in Raiders, Han shoots first.
There you go. You see? But
um,
actually, in A New Hope, Han is the only one who shot. Greedo didn't even shoot. If you watch the original,
you're right.
Greedo doesn't even get a shot off.
You're
So
right.
yeah, Han shoots. Yeah, he shot. It shouldn't just be Han shot first. Han shot. Greedo didn't.
Right.
I
No, you
digress.
no, you're good. You're good. So after that, we move on to they're messing around with the staff, and they go into the Well of Souls, and the Cobra sits up.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's another iconic shot. Like when and that looked pretty real, especially for the 80s.
Hmm.
Like that looked like a real snake. And the so this is kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but when they fall into the Well of Souls, and obviously setting up the snake thing, it's paid off here. And then Marion is apprehended by the villain, and she tries to do the drinking game to steer him off course,
Hmm.
which is cool because they set that up earlier.
Now, there's a couple of things you skipped.
Okay.
Before we go that far though, he thinks that Marion died. Remember the vehicle blew up, and
Oh,
he thinks that
right.
she died. So he doesn't realize that the bad guy, whatever his name is, I can't believe we don't know his name, but that he has
Yeah.
her with him. So he's getting drunk in a bar with the monkey, and then the bad guy is like he's in there and tries to talk to him, whatever.
Right, right. No, and that's when they do the whole silly thing where she's in the basket and
Yeah,
he
yeah,
thinks
yeah.
she's in the one that burns up. And
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So, and that's like, it's funny because there's like dark moments, kind of lighter moments like that,
And
all
then
throughout this
remember they
thing.
go back to his house, John Reese Davies' house, and they tried to poison him with the dates. That's where you get the bad dates and all of that.
Yes, yes. And Indy we wouldn't have had a Temple of,
Mhm.
we wouldn't have had the other movies.
Those reflexes, man.
Yeah. And that's something I didn't catch when I was younger. That he
Oh,
almost dies from the date because it's
yeah.
so quick. It's so
Hmm.
quick. He catches it, and it's Sala, right, that catches it.
Yes,
Okay, and
because he
it tells
noticed the
him,
monkey was dead from eating
yes,
dates.
that's what it was. Yes, but it's such a fast scene that as a kid, I didn't even catch that till later. Later viewing. But yeah. So then, what did you have after that?
So after I have the bad dates, um, that's whenever they go out to well, they realize that the Nazis are digging in the wrong spot, so they go and they end up on site. And
Right.
that's where he puts the medallion on the staff and all of that stuff.
See, I'm
Um,
glad you brought that up because one of the criticisms that this movie gets is that Indy doesn't do anything in the last act.
no, he still doesn't. Eh, we'll get to it. I
But
understand what you're saying.
yeah, because they wouldn't have found that spot had he not found it. So even though he's not doing anything in the last act, he is the one that technically found the arc.
What? But here's the thing: they would have found it anyway because they weren't that far away. So
They
they
would
would
have
have
found it
found
next
it
week,
anyway. Yeah, it would have taken them a little bit longer, but they would have found it. They would have opened it anyway, and they would have all died anyway.
but
So
they
it
would
would
have taken them longer.
It would have just taken him longer. So all
So
he
he
did
still
was
did
speed up the
something,
process. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but he did something.
Yeah, he did something. And I wouldn't have known any of this if it wasn't for the Big Bang Theory bringing it up
Oh yeah, I
because
did see
there's
that.
an episode in there and I was like, "Huh, is that true?" So whenever I watched it the other day, I kept trying to understand what they were talking about and then at the end I was like, "They're right. No matter what Indy does, it would have been the same outcome. If he
Right,
would have just let them do it, they were going to open it, but of course, he didn't know what would happen when you opened it.
right,
Um, but nevertheless, had he not done anything and they found it, they would have all died anyway.
right. And then who know? Well, and then who knows where the arc would have ended up? But because of Indy, the government does get it at the end.
Yeah.
So I'm glass half full. Remember, he did do a little bit.
Yes, your glass half full. Oh, so we went a little bit of ahead. So
Yeah.
he finds it and he also that's where he realizes that Marion is still alive. And he
Mm-hmm.
puts the gag back on her and she's like, "Roar," getting all mad at him because she can't believe that he's leaving her there.
Right.
And that's whenever they go down where all the snakes are.
Mm-hmm. In the Well of
And
Souls.
yeah, in the Well of Souls. And of course, they see the crowd and that's how they find Indy.
Right.
They see the people helping at the surface level, and that's
Mm-hmm.
how they like, wait, what's going on over there?
Right. So yeah, that's how they figure out that. And what's cool, it's a subtle detail. Like they start digging in it at night, and by
Mhm.
the time Indy finds the arc and brings it up, it's daytime. So even though it's only a couple of minutes scene, it took him, several hours to locate the arc because it starts at night with remember all the lightning and
Yep,
stuff,
yep.
and then it goes into the morning. Um, and I like how when he actually, when I guess we're at the part where when Indy does find the arc with Sala, they take a moment. Like, had that been shot today, it would have been like boom, boom, boom. But
Yeah.
he looks at Sala and he looks at he's like, is this it? Because it's covered up. Um, and then what's a cool detail is, do you know why they put the staffs in to lift it?
No.
Because it's holy. You're not supposed to touch it.
Ah,
So they're technically
there you
not
go.
touching it with their bare hand. And that's, part of the movie and biblically. So that I thought that was cool. And then when they actually pull it up, it looks really cool. Like it looks like the movie could lead to this MacGuffin or this sacred object. Um, and then after that, uh, yeah, like you said, the Nazis take it and
Yeah. They
they
leave
throw
Indy and
Marion
Marion in there.
in the well. Yes. And what Indy does is pretty clever. He sees the snakes coming through the walls. He figures the wall's hollow. He knocks one of the statues over and gets out. So, he's smart in the moment. He gets in over his head, but he thinks of stuff like that. He didn't just throw his hands up. He got out because he was observing the scene that he was in. So, and then from that we move on to
Well, there's a big chase. So
yes.
they're chasing the Nazis, and there is uh, a Willem scream. I don't know if you caught it
Oh yes,
in there.
by
Like he shoots one of them or something, and he goes,
it's around the
"Oh,
time of the truck, right?
yeah."
Yes. And then when he fights the big guy at the plane, that's around that time too.
Oh
Is
yeah,
it
that was
not?
before. I'm sorry. Yeah, the fight at the
Yeah.
plane was before the big the car chase. Yeah.
And that fight at the plane, that was, that's another cool scene. And they later, it's been a while since I've seen it, but Joe Johnson directed the first Avenger, the first Captain America movie, and they pay homage to that where he's fighting by a big guy by a plane like that,
Mhm.
something like that. And Joe Johnson worked on this too because he was at ILM. So, but no, that plane scene was cool, and the truck scenes, where he knocks him off, and then he has to go under it.
Yep.
All the
They basically
practical
like
stuff.
swap spots and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard when they filmed that scene where he's under the car, he was on a board, but with all the sand and all the movement, you really can't see the board. That's how he was able to go under. But that whole thing, I can only imagine how that was to shoot because you have so many moving parts.
And that's the stunt man under a truck. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
And
hardcore right there.
other people on the truck's moving, you're in the desert, so the conditions aren't great. So yeah, that was an amazing sequence.
Hmm.
One of the standouts for sure.
So yeah, and at whenever they're walking, Indy is there with the rocket launcher and he's
Right.
threatening to shoot it, but they know he's not going to shoot it. You know, they know he's not going to blow it up.
Right. Because if he does, he could potentially destroy the ark, and yeah, and he's not going to do that.
He's not going to do
Um,
that.
so that was a really quick bluff that got called out, and I was like, dang. And that happens quick. It's not like he's up there for 20 minutes. It happens fairly quick. Um,
And then they go
and
and the whole end scene where they open it and all that good stuff. So
right.
I
And
just I'm ready to start um saying what I don't like.
okay, I got one nitpick about that though. Like the ark is amazing, and when they open it, it's just like the sand. I wish you could. I mean, I know Moses threw him down, but I wish that you would have seen the actual stone, tablets, even if they
Like
were broken.
chunks of it or something. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of I was like, man, just sand. Like I would have liked to see the actual tablets broken. I think that would have been a little bit cooler. But then all the wrath of God comes out, and what's cool though is I like how Indy and Marion, and I don't know if you like this, they keep their eyes shut, right? So they're not affected by everything going around them. And it's really similar to the story of in the Old Testament of Lot, when you don't look at the wrath of God, that when God's destroying Sodom and Gomorrah, and
Hmm.
the mom looks and she turns into salt and dies, but the other people don't die because they don't look at the destruction. So there's, that they had to have been thinking that because the only people that survive are the ones not looking at the wrath. So, I thought
Okay.
that
Yeah,
was
that's
interesting.
probably exactly where they got it from.
Right. And it makes sense, not to look at God's wrath, or, you'll be subject to what's happening. So that's, they survive that. And then real quick, the government ends up with the ark. So,
And we know you can
um,
trust the government.
well, and that ending though, where it ends on the warehouse, it reminds me of like Planet of the Apes ending
X-Files
on the Statue of Liberty, right?
or
Like
the X-Files
or
where
the
you,
X Files.
where they something you think is this big deal, but they just put it on a shelf and there's just tons of shelves with
Right.
all of these secrets and it's like wow. So you're watching this episode, you think it's such a big deal and it's just a tiny little chapter
I know.
in the big
Men in
picture.
Black does that now too, thinking about it.
Oh
How,
yeah. Hmm.
so yeah, because for one, it's like it's lost again. And then it's like, what the heck else do they have in there? If
Yeah.
that's just like
If they
one
have
of
the
the
Ark of the Covenant in there, what else do they have in there?
exactly, like that's just so go ahead and go into some of your nitpicks before
Okay,
we jump.
so I honestly couldn't wait till this movie was over. Okay.
Okay.
The every scene has cool moments in it, but they just drag on. Like the
Mm,
whole movie is so long in the tooth. The fight scenes, good fight scenes for the first 5 minutes. Okay. Then it's like, okay, I don't need to continue seeing this fight. Like it, let's go. Let's pick it up.
gotcha.
So, um, the fight scene at the airplane was kind of like that. It's like, okay, let's go. The car chase is like that. Um, I don't know. It's just the movie was so long in the tooth and it's because in my opinion, it's poorly edited. Like they probably could have edited 20 minutes out of this movie easily. And
Okay.
it would have had the same effect, maybe even better effect because that's just me. And I guess that's part of my issue with these movies. I get bored, really bored with this one especially. I didn't realize how much I wasn't going to enjoy it because I always thought this was one of the better ones. Um,
Hmm.
but after watching this one, Temple of Doom is far superior to this one. Far
Interesting.
superior.
Interesting. Okay.
Um,
I-
and
I'll
that's my biggest beef with it. Is just it feels too long.
I'll agree with you that, if you cut 15 minutes out, it probably would benefit from that. And you know what scene I could have done without? The when he's on, we didn't even talk about this, when he's on the submarine and he's hiding in the shaft. It's right before the rocket launcher scene. He like climbs up on the he ends up on the submarine in the
Oh, yeah,
ocean.
yeah, yeah. That
That
everybody,
could have been cut out.
yes. The
I
pirates
would
are
have
wondering where is he? Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, I would have cut that scene out. I would have went straight from where we were before. I think it was the trucks and stuff to when he's on the hill with the rocket launcher. They could have cut that sub scene out.
Mhm.
So I agree with you on that. That it could be a little cut up, but we didn't talk about the music real quick. John Williams, like
Well, I mean, look, that speaks for itself. The score is
it does.
iconic. I mean, it's a great, and everybody knows it. Even if they haven't
He
seen the movie, they probably know it's the Indiana
iconic.
Jones score.
Everything John Williams does is iconic. I mean, he even made the score in Home Alone iconic.
That's right. Any movie, it's funny. I'm not joking. Today, one of my coworkers sent me a YouTube video on I think it was named or titled "What George Lucas Got Right," and it was just a video of John Williams and showing
Oh, totally.
how he does how he comes up with his scores as he's watching the movie, and George is explaining to him, okay, this is what's going on here, and the guy is just a genius,
Yeah,
and pretty much any awesome movie that has an awesome score, especially in that time period, is John Williams, you
absolutely.
know?
He's if you would have told me, like, I guess it's another conversation, but like the three things that made Star Wars successful, John Williams would be one for sure, no doubt.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
look at
Um,
Jaws, you know.
yeah, everything he touches. So do you want to transition to Temple of Doom?
Yeah, yeah, we can go into Temple of Doom because I think we just covered everything on that, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Temple of Doom is 19, well, we forgot to mention that was 1981 or
Oh, when it
2.
was made?
Yeah, when it was
Okay,
made. I think it's
so
81.
Raiders was made in 81 and
Temple of Doom is
it's
84.
yeah, because
But
I got them in front of me.
but Temple
84
of
was Temple,
Doom
yeah.
takes place a year before Raiders. It takes place in
Not a lot of people know
1935.
that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because it starts off Shanghai 1935. So technically, Temple of Doom is a prequel. That's why Marion's not in it. That's why, he's with Short Round and different things like that, is it's technically before, which was interesting,
Yeah.
because you know who's involved and, prequel. So keep going.
I wonder if that was a thing where they couldn't get Karen Allen to come back. So they're like, okay, how are we going to explain or how we're going to do this? We need a different love interest or a different female lead. So maybe that's
It
why they
could
did it
be.
that way. I don't know. I'm just speculating.
No, it could be. I mean, and also they could have just looked at it as, let's just do another adventure, not have to be married to Raiders. But I don't know. You know, I love Lucas to death, but we both know that he's not. He plays fast and loose with continuity. So
Oh, uh,
all right, but I don't want to take anything away from you, but I love the opening of this movie.
yeah, it's
Like
great.
Spielberg always, and if you watch, documentaries with him, Spielberg always wanted to make a James Bond movie, and now he did. Like Indy was always kind of like that, but he even comes in with the white suit, like Sean
Hmm.
Connery. It's a musical number, like James Bond movies start. So very, very James Bond opening, right?
Yep, they got the credits are rolling while they're performing.
Mm-hmm.
Anything goes or whatever the song is. So yeah, it's a good opening. Absolutely, just like the last one was good opening.
And did you catch the name of the club they're in?
Oh yeah, Club Obi-Wan. Yeah.
Yeah. um,
I like what do you call it? The whole this one probably could have been shortened a little bit, but it's a good opening.
mhm.
Um,
The opening's good.
with the Chinese bosses and how he the big dummy drinks the poison after he had made the deal. If he would have just never drank the poison, he would have been fine,
Right.
you know. So
And
no matter how smart he is, he's still kind of goofy sometimes. He does stupid things, you know.
right. He gets, like, okay, I did it. Now I can relax. And then that, like you said, that cost him everything because he had to give the diamond back to get the antidote.
And he tries to
Um,
take Kate Capshaw, her name is Willie, tries to take her hostage, and they're
yes,
like, "Go ahead, we'll get another girl." Like, we don't
yeah, they don't
care.
even care. But then Indy does, to his credit, he does have a guy working in the club on his behalf. But then they even kill that guy, and I was
Yeah.
like, dang
Once
man,
again, the violence. I mean, of course, this one is
oh my
very,
gosh,
but
the kebab through the chest,
yep,
and
people getting
it's
shot. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
it's
it's yeah the that beginning, like it's almost like yeah, and it's PG. That's so insane because
mhm.
obviously, like you said, this
But
led to
from what I
that rating.
understand, they were PG-13 was in the works, but they hurried
Hmm.
up to get this released so they wouldn't have to go through the new rating system or something to that effect.
Yeah, because it's still rated PG,
Hmm.
but obviously, right after this, that became a thing. In Short Round, like when you've got kids in a movie, a lot of times they're annoying, but I don't know. This kid's charming. I don't mind Short Round.
Yep, I don't mind him at all, and he's
Yeah.
the best part of Goonies, you know.
Yeah, that kid, he's awesome, especially that young. So he's the getaway driver, right? Getting him out of the club, and he's got boxes on his shoes. Like it works though. He's hilarious.
And
And
you get your first Willem scream of two in this movie.
yes, I noticed when they pop up, very iconic.
You know, Willem scream in the chase turn in the car in this one.
Right. And what's funny is you talked about Indian over his head and like the gangsters have one up on him. And the, Short Round gets Willie and Indy to the plane. And they're like, and Indy's laying on the plane sleeping, like everything's good. But then the pilot is sold out to the gangster. So he still gets one up on him,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
because the pilot
it
jumps out.
before that you have your little Dan Aykroyd cameo. Dan Aykroyd is the one telling Indy.
Oh,
You didn't realize that
I
he's
didn't
using an
catch
accent,
that.
but it's Dan Aykroyd. He's only got, a minute of screen time, and he helps him get on the plane, and that's when Indy says, "So long." What's his name? Lachi or something like that. Louch.
Okay.
And then when he closes
Ouch.
the
Okay.
door, his name is on the door. The
Dang, I'll
gangster.
have to go back and see that. I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
So now they're on the plane and they don't,
Mm-hmm.
like you were saying, they don't realize that the plane is owned by the gangster, so they go to sleep thinking they're on their way to where are they going?
They're on their way to. Oh, you know what?
I guess he was just heading back home is where he was
I
supposed
think
to be.
so. Yeah,
And
they don't go to
that's
it.
where
Oh,
the pilots jump out.
okay. And did you notice when he gets into the cockpit and the fuel's running out? It makes that same sound
Oh
that the
yeah,
Falcon does
the
when
Falcon
the
again.
hyperdrive doesn't work.
Yep,
I thought that
I
was a
did
nice
notice
little
that.
touch.
And
Yeah,
she asked him, "Can you fly this thing?" And
and
he's
he's in
like,
a
"No."
yeah. That I mean, there's so many. If you know the other movies, it's cool.
Stuff that you pick
Little
up
inside
on.
jokes, right?
So yeah, so the
Um,
pilots jump out and
mhm.
she notices that they jumped out and they don't know how to fly it. So that's where the raft comes in. Now, I don't
Yeah.
know if that would even be close to possible,
Okay, that's one of
jumping
my
out on a
nitpicks.
raft, you
I don't
know?
like the boat thing. Like it's silly. Like okay, so they land in the snow, which okay, I don't know how thick the snow is, maybe, but then after that they go further with the boat. And I was watching some behind the scenes, and what they were saying is that boat scene was supposed to be in Raiders, but they moved it to this movie because it was, too long.
Mm. Yeah, it
So
was
that
too
would have,
long.
yeah.
But
So
even
yeah,
this
I'm not.
scene, once again, and look, this movie kind of suffers from the same thing Raiders does, where all of the scenes are just so long. Like all of the action
Right.
scenes are just so long, and this is one of them. It just
Mm-hmm.
keeps the boat. It just keeps going and going, and they go over a cliff, then they end up in the water, then they go over a waterfall, and
Yeah, it's like,
it's like my goodness. But that's how they
yeah.
end up in India and what do you call it? Floating right up to this village.
Right. And I think that's cool because this whole India thing is kind of an accident if you look at it from Indy's point of view, right? Because they didn't
Right.
plan on getting shot down. So they just stumble upon this village, and these Indian people were praying for somebody to
Right.
help them. So
They
you could
believe that he
see,
fell from the
right.
heavens, you
But
know.
he kind of did. So you could see both sides
Yeah.
of
Yeah. I
it.
mean, you're sitting there praying for somebody to come, and then this guy falls from the sky, you know.
Yeah, so that's one of my favorite things about Temple of Doom is that both sides make sense.
Hmm.
So I like that.
And then
And
he just kind of
so
stumbled
basically,
upon this, you know. This
right,
wasn't something he was going after or anything like that. He was doing something else and ended up here, you know.
right. So from Indy's point of view, this whole thing is an accident.
Hmm. Yep.
But what's cool about so basically this town is undergoing bad luck. The crops, the food, the kids are taken, all is happening because they believe their sacred stone was stolen,
Hmm.
which is causing all this to happen to them, an evil force. Um, and I like when Indiana Jones is listening, Short Round is behind him copying him. Like the way Indy's moving his hands as he's listening, Short Round's copying him. If you look in the background, like Indy's like, and then Short Round's doing it too,
Oh,
but
I
you
didn't even
can't see.
notice. I didn't even notice. I guess maybe I was
No, no,
just
that's something I noticed on this viewing, and
I was so annoyed with Willie's character at this point. I know she's supposed to be kind of comic relief, but man, it was kind of
right.
overdone. You know, she was very annoying in this movie.
See, so that's the thing. Like Marion was, you know, she was a damsel in distress sometimes, but she also had wit about her and she had cool character stuff like Carrie Fisher, right? But this girl is complete damsel in distress, like the
Yep.
stereotype. Like she can't do anything on her own,
Hmm.
Willie. So yeah, it's a totally different female in this movie versus the first one. Um, and I agree that is one of the weaker points of this movie. But so they're going through the village. Indiana Elephant is cool. Like this movie looks like it was shot there. Like it's cool seeing, the landscapes and all that being practical.
Hmm. Yeah, you see a lot of matte paintings. You see a lot of you know, they look bad now, but at the time, I'm
Right.
sure there wasn't too a lot of green screen or something to that effect, whatever they used in 1984. I think they did have green screen in 84, huh? Man, no, maybe not. No.
Um it was I'm not sure, but there is some shots like on the elephant and stuff of them actually, you know,
No, but
somewhere.
I'm talking about
Um
like backtracking a little bit when they were on the raft and it was going down. There was some,
oh,
you know, some really
no,
bad.
very visible. Yeah. And
Mhm.
again, that could have easily been shortened up and you don't even need that. You could just have like a couple of wide shots or something.
Right, right. They didn't
Yeah.
need all of that stuff. So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
moving
But again,
forward.
in their defense, they are pushing technology forward at this moment, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and what else do we have here? So, um, they had
Oh,
that scene where go
well,
ahead.
they end up after they agree to look for the stones from the village people.
Mm-hmm.
They end up at that palace, where
Right.
the kid is
Bangkok
the
Palace.
emperor, and I have gross food is what I have in my
Oh,
notes, and that's where the disgusting all the bugs and the eels and all of that stuff, and then the monkey brains for dessert. I remember that
see,
as a kid. I remember
see,
the monkey head as a kid. You know.
and I'm a few years after you, and when I had heard of that scene before I watched these movies because that's one of the things people talk about is
Hmm.
like all this weird the monkey brain and then the snake you cut it open and then there's more snakes that come out like and what
That didn't
makes
bother
it
me. The dude sucking on the guts out of the bug is what was like, oh, that's
yeah and
disgusting.
it works because our characters are like oh my gosh but to them it's a delicacy to
Yeah,
the natives like and then Willie thinks like she can have just had some soup and then she thinks it's going to be normal and then there's eyeballs in it like
eyeballs in it.
They were having fun with that for sure.
Oh, there's no
Um,
doubt. Probably offending all kind of people,
yeah.
especially
Um,
now, Back then, people could handle a joke. Now, that would be offending
yeah.
everybody. And then the emperor was a kid. I don't know if they really explained why it was a kid. They never really say.
I mean, it definitely makes them look like hypocrites because they have this kid they're celebrating. Meanwhile, other ones are dying underneath the
Hmm.
palace. Um, um, and, oh, but then Short Round says they call to the fact that the emperor, whoever he is a kid, and Short Round says maybe he likes older women.
Ah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah, because she was thinking she was gonna slide in his DMs. Yeah.
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 So that was funny. Uh, but let's see here.
What I
Okay,
have
so
next
then
is the scene where they're in their room and she gets mad that she's like, I'm
it
not
gets
that
a
easy, and he's like,
it gets
sure
a
you
little
are, or
steamy.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're like,
It,
5 minutes. You'll be begging
it,
for me, 5 minutes, you're gonna come, and then there's just yeah. It's a
and
good
that's like
scene.
it's funny. No, it's a good scene, and some of the innuendos they're saying, and then like he's talking about like exploring like her like an archaeologist, like
Mhm.
and but it's funny because like that is a more adult scene, but then you have the boat scene, so it's like a mixed match of stuff. It's like PG, close PG-13 R. Like there's the consistency is all over the place. When you
And when
agree?
it and when he goes back, yeah. Oh, all of these movies are like that. But
Yeah.
whenever when he finally after he gets attacked in his room, the guy that was just standing in front of the painting looks like he just comes to life. It was really neat. He was standing in front of the painting on the wall, looking
Right.
like he was part of the painting. Then he just comes out and he tries to strangle Indy. They fight, kill him. He hangs him on
Yeah, he
the
goes up in
the
the fan.
fan and all that stuff. So when he goes across the room, she's like, "You came back," and all this because she thinks that he's ready to get busy, but he's
Right.
looking around the room. She's like, "I'm right here,"
Yeah.
and he's trying to figure out how they got into the room, and then
Right.
he feels up the statue.
And she gets
You know,
jealous of the statue.
yeah, he pushes the boobs. You know,
Yeah. Which one of one of my nitpicks though is so the entrance just happened to be in the room they put her in.
well, I mean, I guess they put her in the room. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
So,
Whatever.
but yeah. So that one kind of I'm like really like of all the rooms in the
But
palace,
maybe they
she
wanted them to go in there because they thought they would die in the booby trap.
now you sound like
You know what I'm
me.
saying? Maybe they thought they like, okay, if he goes in there, that's fine. They're gonna die in there like everybody else. I don't know.
That's true. Yeah, maybe they wanted to get rid of him. That could be. Um, and let's see.
So this
So
is
so
the
they
the
get
bug
trapped.
scene, yeah, where the
Oh,
thing's coming down.
yes, and so I'm sorry, I can't help but see these parallels when when Short Round and Indy are trapped in the death trap, right? And
Hmm.
Willie's fumbling around trying to help them.
The
It
trash
was
compactor.
yes, with
Yeah.
C3PO fumbling around and they're in the trash. It was exactly the same, but she obviously pulls the lever at the last moment. They get out
Harrison
only to
Ford is so funny. If you don't open it, we will die.
yes, because she doesn't want to touch the lever because it's so
Hmm.
far in and it
Man, I would
says,
have a hard time. I'd be like, ooh.
yeah, I
And
know.
I'm not a complete wimp, but that's kind of gross.
Man,
That's disgusting.
whoever loves insects and all that, they must have had a field day shooting this thing.
Yeah. Those insect wranglers and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You get everything because a lot of that looked real.
Oh, a lot of them
Um,
were real. There's no doubt.
yeah. So
There's no doubt.
that was something cool. And okay, so then we go deeper into the cavern and there's some stuff going on down there. Like I don't think you can get more demonic than some of the stuff that they show.
The iconic ritual, man.
Yeah.
The pulling the heart out the chest. He's still alive, all of that. I remember
Yeah.
that's stuff that is vivid in my head as a kid. The rest of the movie, not so much. Only certain aspects of it.
Right.
Just like in the first one, just certain little scenes for so and I guess even as a kid, these movies just didn't grab me to where I just wanted to watch them over and over.
Yeah,
But
I was more of
you
a
definitely get
casual
stuff like
viewer
this.
of it. But there was, and I've, just like in the first movie, like the face melting scene, like this is up there with that. Like that's something that stuck with me. But yeah, these guys need Jesus. It's bad. Like, but then you see the stones, which is cool
Mhm.
in the skull. You see the stones, and he gets his hands on one, but then Short Round and Willie are captured.
Right.
Right?
And here it's falling into the same trap again. So long, like it's just it's like come on guys, let's how many times after Indy gets hypnotized
Yeah.
and all this good stuff and Willie is in the trap and she's how many times they're gonna go up and down and as close as she was, the other guy was already burning up. How come Willie didn't burn up?
Yeah,
You know?
because she sits down there for a little bit. What
Mhm.
is your thoughts on him being possessed?
I mean, he was because I remember thinking, was he pretending or not pretending? But it took Short Round burning him to wake him
To
up.
snap out of
So
it?
yeah, so he really was hypnotized or possessed, whatever you want to
No,
call
I believe he was. I just didn't know. Do you like the choice or not? Do you like that they
it.
wrote it that way? Because it's
Yeah,
kind
I
of like
mean,
my problem with it though. Is like the whole time I'm waiting for him to flip back. You
yeah.
know, so, and it's not. He doesn't stay hypnotized that long. But anyway, that puts them in jeopardy. And then let's see. Um, then he gets snapped out of it thanks to Short Round. And then I have on here when he looks, so they temporarily get freed, right? And then he looks through a crack in the wall and sees the mine carts
Hmm.
with all the slaves and all that. So um, I thought that was cool. It reminds me again, same writers in episode two, when Obi-Wan is wandering around those catacomb caves, he looks through a crack and sees the droid factory, and then later on the characters get involved in the droid factory kind of like this. He sees through the crack the mine carts, and then later on we have a big scene with the mine carts. I just caught that same writers, so a lot of the same ones. But
Now they're
go ahead.
supposedly they had the kids digging, right,
Hmm.
for the last two stones. So there's a total of five
Right, they have
because they
three.
had
There's two
three.
more.
They needed two more. So that's why they needed the slave labor to help dig for or try to find the last two stones.
Right, and then the idea with that is I forgot, he's a shaman or the guy with the orange. I forget his.
Yeah,
He says like basically when he has all the stones, he will it seems like his religion will take over the earth because he starts calling out all the gods from different religions, saying that he's going to conquer them and all that. So
yeah.
so that's what they're trying to do.
Like they said on The Mummy Returns, Jonathan, oh, the old take over the world ploy, you know.
Yes, which is those movies are clearly inspired by this.
Hmm.
And growing up in the 90s, I saw the Mummy movies first, and then I saw these, and the Mummies had a quicker pace to them, but I can definitely see that they were inspired
The
by these.
parallels, yeah, there's no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I much prefer the Mummy movies over Indiana Jones. But so okay, I'm gonna call it the roller coaster.
Yeah, the
I don't
minecart.
understand the roller coaster scene, and even if they were gonna do it, once again, way too long. They could have done it for a little while, a couple of minutes, but
Right.
geez, Louise, you know how long it would take to build a track that long? I mean,
It does go on for a
goodness.
while.
It
It
just
does
goes
go on for a
on
while.
and on and on. It gets really silly towards the end. I'm like, okay, once again, Steven Spielberg going long in the
Right.
tooth with all of these sequences. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but still, it's a good scene. There's
Yeah,
fun.
and
It's fun. There's fun things that happen, and it just goes on a little too long.
it does go on a little long, and yeah, I guess you could say it's a little silly, but I like it. Like if you're talking about, the boat out of the plane, or the mine cart scene, I'm going mine cart. Like the boat one, I was like, all right,
Yes,
come on,
yes,
this is silly.
yes, yes.
But I like it's a little silly, but I like the mine cart. I don't mind it. And um, this is years later, but Solo practically lifts this whole scene in the movie Solo.
Hmm.
When
I've
they
only
go to
seen it a
that
couple
planet.
times.
Well, but they go to that planet and the Wookiees are mining.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, it's this was obviously way year decades before, but it made me think of that. Like they lifted a lot of that from this. But and it's also it goes on for a long time, like you said, and eventually we get out though, because this is kind of like the last hoorah in the cave, and then they get out.
Yeah, the
It
water and everything forces them out,
mm-hmm.
and they kind of have the whole where they're hanging on the mountain and the water's flying out, which
And
I
there's
don't
some
think
shoddy shots there.
very bad effects, but I mean 1984. But
Yeah,
the thing that was most unbelievable was the amount of water. I don't think that thing of water that they tipped over had that much water that would have caused that much pressure and lasted that long, you know. But
yeah. So you're talking about the villains tipping over that water tower in an attempt
yeah,
to wipe them out. Yeah,
but
it was
we just saw him rip somebody's heart out with his bare hands too. So, what do we
right.
do?
So maybe there's like some black magic involved or something, but you really didn't need the water.
No.
The scene was enough without the water. You didn't really need it, but yeah. But what's cool is they finally get out of there, and I like how Indy does the gun thing again with the
Yeah,
guy.
but he
He
doesn't
comes
have
up,
a gun.
yeah, yes, but the gun's not there. You're right. So
Yeah,
it's like a
he
play on
goes,
that scene.
and then he's chasing one, and then he looks at the camera, he turns and he runs away, and there's a bunch of them chasing him
A New
from
Hope.
A New Hope, right? Yeah.
I noticed that too with the stormtroopers. He screams and then
Mhm.
runs back out. That was funny that they did that they lifted that.
But now
And
this is
go
around
ahead,
the time where a short round is like, strong bridge. You see, strong bridge.
dude. The bridge is iconic. I like the bridge. I I think if it was made today, the alligator stuff would look better because you really don't see anybody get eaten. You just see like clothing and
And they're
you know
they're
and spinning
twirling and
around.
spinning
Yeah, but
around.
what'd
Yeah.
you think of the bridge? I mean,
Oh, that's a
you
good
got to
scene. I
have
like it.
you have to have that in a movie like this, right? So, and that bridge looked good. I
Hmm.
wonder how much of it was practical because it looks like it was there.
Or if it was
I'm sure
a
there's
yeah,
matte paintings and things,
yeah,
maybe.
and I wonder if it's a real bridge that even exists, or if it was something that was built just for the movie. I don't know.
Right. I don't know, but that whole bridge thing is fun. And there's gators at the bottom, and Indy has to make that judgment call.
Well,
He's
first he
surrounded
tries
on
to
both
bluff them.
sides.
He tries to bluff them, and they're like, "Go ahead, we'll find the stones, but you won't be found."
Oh, because he's
Yeah,
holding them. You're right.
yeah,
He's acting like he's going to get rid of them. Which is kind of like the Nazi thing, him pointing the gun.
yeah. That's
You
so.
know,
Two movies he tries to bluff, and it doesn't work.
with totally different cultures.
Yep.
Um, so then he's got that moment where it's like, okay, he's surrounded, and he decides to start cutting the bridge to wipe, to as an attempt to at least get rid of them. And he has that thing prepare to meet Callie in hell and all this stuff.
Hmm.
That he's saying to the guy, and he cuts the bridge, and the stones. So then the bridge slaps against the wall, right against the rock wall, and the main villain is still hanging on with him, and he starts dropping the stones.
Yeah, he's saying something, and the stones are like burning through his satchel.
Right, he's saying some kind of a scripture or something, and the stones are
Hmm.
burning through, and then um two fall, right, but the villain holds one. I'm trying.
Yeah,
It's
and he
quick.
he like he throws one down to try to knock Indy off.
Right.
Um, yeah, and then at some point he falls and he starts fighting with Indy on the bridge and
Right.
all this good stuff, and eventually he falls off. But um, and the good guys show up with guns and start shooting at the bad guys who are with their
Yes.
arrows shooting arrow. Nobody hits Indy, of course. Yeah.
But that the that is it a British military? I'm assuming
Something
it's
like
like a
that.
British
Yeah.
military. So them showing up at the end is also kind of like a James Bond thing too. Like they did that in GoldenEye years later. Like, the backup comes at the very, very end. Um, but
Oh, there
he
was a
gets
Willem scream with the alligators. Somebody who fell in with the alligators. There was another Willem scream because this
oh,
movie has two. I wrote it down.
that's cool. That's a cool little Easter egg. And so then he ends up with one stone, and that's the stone he returns to the village.
Right.
Um, which and then of course all the kids come running out,
Coming
and then
back. Yep.
and it's kind of that it's kind of like a nice fairy tale wrap up ending with him coming back with all the kids that were abducted, and then he's got the stone, and mission accomplished. But again, his efforts don't end up with anything in a museum, right? And he always wants things to go in a museum. And in the first movie, the government has it locked up, the Ark. And then in this one, the villagers get their stone back, or one of the stones. I doubt it was the exact same one,
No, it
but one of the
was.
stones.
They
It was
returned
this.
the stone
Oh,
that belonged to the village is the one that he was able to keep.
okay. I guess that could be a nitpick thing because they all look the same, you know.
Well, maybe
And
you're right. I just maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
no, I do. Well, I mean, all I know is that they all look the same. So but yeah, so
I
he
thought they were
returns
different.
that.
They're all the exact
When they're
same.
lit up, they look the same, but maybe when they're not lit up, they're different.
Okay.
Because I'm just remembering them in the skull and they're all orange, but maybe when they're
Okay.
not lit up, they look different. I'm not sure. I'd have to look again. But so, peace is restored in that village. And then, you know,
But
he
overall,
gets,
this one is way better than Raiders. I found myself really enjoying this one. I think um, aside from Willie,
mm-hmm,
who was annoying, Indy was funny, Short Round was funny.
yeah.
Um, I don't know, and I guess I enjoyed this story more than I enjoyed Raiders. Um, I don't know, for some reason, just this one overall is just far superior than Raiders. I couldn't wait for, like, I'm not joking. I could not wait for Raiders to finish.
That's
I was like,
interesting. That's cool.
oh,
So I'll say this, like, I like, we're gonna do the other two in a next video, but out of these two, I like both of them. Like they both feel like Indiana Jones, even though he's surrounded by different characters in both. Like the first one has Nazis, this one has the others, um, different supporting casts around him in both movies. I like both. They both feel like Indy, but
mhm.
I'm gonna go Raiders over Temple. It just has. I'm a sucker for the iconic shots,
I think most
and
people are that way as well, but not
mm-hmm,
me. For some reason, I just much prefer Temple of Now. It could be because I am a horror movie fan, and it seems like it has a little bit more of a horror element towards,
that's probably
some of that
exactly
stuff.
what it is.
But in my opinion, the writing and everything was, even the directing was, the action shots and stuff like it. To me, it was just done way better in this one than in Raiders.
You might have hit the nail on the head there because I appreciate horror, but I'm much more of an action guy. And
Mhm.
Raiders is more action, Temple's more horror. Just like Terminator 2 is more action and Terminator 1 is more horror esque.
Oh, and look, and I
And
love
you probably
Terminator
like
1.
Terminator 1 more, right?
Oh, way
So
better.
that's
Way
what it
better.
is. I mean, I
When I
like,
want to watch a
don't get me.
Terminator movie, I'll
Mhm.
throw in Terminator 1 way anytime before Terminator 2.
That's cool. See, so I like both, but I always go more for the action than the
Yeah.
straight up horror. You could also say that with Alien and Aliens.
Oh,
Aliens more
Alien.
horror.
Yeah. But it's the same thing. I much prefer to watch Alien over Aliens. Now, I love Aliens, and don't get me wrong, and it's the same thing with Terminator 2. I love
That's how
that
I feel.
movie, but preferably, if I'm just sitting down and I want to watch an Alien movie and really I'm going to put in the first one.
That's cool. See, because like you said, I appreciate both, but I fall more on the action side. But but the female was stronger in Raiders. Raiders has more of the iconic moments, but there's things I like in Temple also. Um, I like the arc over the stones, but they're both cool.
Mhm.
So, but no, that's good. So
Yeah.
this
I was
But I mean,
I'm sorry, I blanked out. There was something I was gonna say and I completely forgot what I was gonna say.
no, you're good. I think definitely the Temple has more horror elements in it. Um, and Raiders is
Oh,
more
that's what I
action
wanted to say.
oriented.
So I have the four disc set of all of the movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a Blu-ray. And what happened was producer Nick accidentally bought two copies. He ordered it on Amazon, and when he got it, he had two of them. And when he looked at his receipt, he had bought two. I guess he added it to his cart twice. So I didn't. I had them. I had the first three on DVD. I didn't have them on Blu-ray. So he's like, "Hey, you want to buy these?" It was
Uh-huh.
30 bucks. I was like, "Sure." So I gave him 30 bucks, and I got the Blu-rays. Raiders didn't look very good. Like the transfer, I don't know. It's something about it. I don't know if it's because the movie's older or whatever, but it didn't look very good. But when I put in Temple of Doom, I thought it looked great. The transfer was really, so I guess maybe the source material for Temple is in better shape than what they have for Raiders, because as far as the Blu-ray goes, Temple of Doom looks way better
Okay,
than
so
Raiders.
we're gonna agree on that because that's something I noticed too. Like when I and the funny thing is I bought these Blu-rays a few years ago, but I had never opened Temple of Doom. So I opened it for this. I've seen it before, but on DVD.
Mm.
But I noticed it too, like especially like the skin tones and the close-ups on Harrison, like it looked really good.
Oh yeah. And
The yeah.
the funny part is, so Nick sells me that, and I'm not
Uh-huh.
joking. Like a month later, Indiana Jones collection on 4K, blah 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 blah, big announcement. And I was like, man, and I just bought it. So I wasn't gonna
That's
spend
annoying.
$70 buying them
Right.
on 4K when I just bought them for 30 bucks from Nick. So had I not
Right.
bought those from Nick, I would have ended up with the 4K versions, and I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
those look. I haven't heard anybody talk about them, so I'd like to see it though.
I bought, yeah, so I prefer to buy 4K as well, but I bought these Blu-rays before 4K was out. But from DVD to Blu-ray, it was a big jump in the quality.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so, but yeah, Temple did look better. Temple did look better. So I'm curious to see how the other two look. Um, so that'll bring us to next time we're going to be looking at
The
Last
Last
Crusade
Crusade. Yep.
and
Crystal
the fourth
Skull, The
one,
Kingdom of
Kingdom of the
Crystal
Crystal Skull.
Skull. Yeah. You
Yeah.
see, we don't even know the name of the damn movie.
Yeah, I mean, and what's crazy is these first three Indiana Jones movies. No matter which one you like more, they all feel like the same story. Like the, they all feel Indiana Jones esque. I like to when I watch one, I like to kind of go through all three because they all feel the same. The fourth one feels a little different, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yep. Yeah, well, it'll take us a little while, probably another week or so to watch these movies, and then we'll
Mm-hmm.
record and we'll put out part two.
Good, and then that'll be because next month with the fifth one coming out, I'd like to talk about that one once that one comes
Yeah, I
out.
don't know if I'm gonna see that one in theaters though. Um, we'll see. But I don't
You
know
should,
about
because
I don't know about
Harris.
dropping my hard-earned cash on that, man.
Well, it might be the last.
It's
So
expensive to go to
Harrison,
the theater.
it is, but Harrison Ford's getting up there, and he said this is his last one.
Well, it should
So
be. The man's in his 80s.
I know. I hope I'm in half as good a shape at him.
Oh,
At Yeah, I know. He's great
like
for
I
his age.
I just saw a little YouTube short. Somebody was recording him. He was coming out of somewhere doing I guess he's doing different press promotions for Indiana Jones.
Uh huh.
And man, he's walking with his hands in
He
his pocket. I mean, the dude looks great and he's 81
he
years
looks
old.
great. I know he looks great. Um, and poor thing, like he didn't want to do the sequel trilogy, and he broke his leg on the set.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that when the
Hmm.
the Falcon
The
ramp?
door fell on him or something, huh?
Gosh, can you imagine that? He he didn't want to do it, and then they finally got him to do it, and then he breaks his freaking leg doing it.
And then there was another movie he was about to start filming and he crashed his plane.
Yeah, which he's even Han Solo in real life.
Right, right. All right, man. Well, Yeah, that was fun. I can't wait
Yeah,
to do part two, and then what we'll do is, I guess we'll just kind of rank the four movies and the ones that are your favorite from, best to worst, and I'll do the same.
that sounds fun. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Give us a like and subscribe. Tell your friends, and we'll see you on the next one. Adios.